Mark coming to you from Baker's Green Acres, and welcome. And I'd like to say how impressed I am that 6 people are waiting to get in on a conversation here at my kitchen table. Today's March 27th, 2019, and I am enjoying spring so far. Made a video a couple days ago where I showed that I planted some stuff in my greenhouse, and although it's quite cool outside in the greenhouse, it was in the 90s with a little bit of sun, and I actually got some really good germination today. I'm told. I haven't gone out and looked at it. I went to a funeral today, and it started at 11, and then there was eats afterwards, and by the time we traveled home, it was about 5 o'clock, and I was exhausted, and I laid down for 15 minutes, turned into an hour and a half. So I wake up, have a cup of coffee, and here I am. But I'm feeling pretty good because spring is upon us. You know, it shows promise. We've got only a little bit of snow outside now, and the days are warmer and longer, and I'm really excited about that. As you can see behind me, you know, it's still sunny out. Okay, so let me get right into the stuff. We've got a date for our fencing class that's going to be May 4th. May 4th. And that's a Saturday, right? And let's start at 9 o'clock. Okay, and we'll go, and if everybody would bring a dish to pass, we'll have lunch here. We'll barbecue some stuff and have a good time. But what we're going to work on mostly is corner posts and H posts, and then I will show you how we stretch woven wire fence and the apparatus that we use. It's all stuff that you can do. But if you're going to homestead, you're going to small farm, you really need to control your animals. You need to be able to keep them in. And having those skills to be able to do that is essential. And once you have those skills, you've got them forever. We've been fencing now on this place for 15 years and probably about 5 years before I got here. And I had a neighbor show me how to do this when I lived in Montana, and then we've kind of built on it, and now we think we have a pretty good system. And if you come here, we'll be able to show you how we contain pigs, how we control, you know, our cows and feeder calves. We'll even get into a little bit of grazing along the way. Okay, so that's May 4th. And you can visit bakersgreenacres.com for the specifics and to register. And we would ask you to please register early so we can make sure that we're going to have enough for a class. Quite sure we will for that one. That's a hot one. The next class is going to be Pastured Poultry, and that's going to be June 22nd. It seems a little late, but we really have to have chickens ready because the last part of the class is going to be processing. So we start out by showing you our brooder, letting you look at the chicks up close, handle the chicks if you want, and see how we do it, how we built this brooder, talk about the design and the way it works. Then we move over to the chicken tractor field. You get to see the chicken tractors being moved with the chickens in them and see it real life, ask all the questions you want. Talk about feed, water systems. I use a contained water system, it's called, and it's plumbed right into the system pressure on the farm. So we always have water in each chicken tractor, and it's really nice, really nice. And we talk a lot about that. I can show you where I get the stuff and all that. And then we move into the shop. We're gonna do the final assembly on a chicken tractor that I will have, you know, cut and ready to go. And so you can see it kind of from the inside out. And we talk about the ways to do what we're doing. This is going to be a Generation 3 chicken tractor. I think it's going to be a design that will probably go down in history. I'm quite confident of that at this point. And then we move from there right to the butcher shop, and everybody will get a chance to participate in, you know, if we have 50 chickens to go, we'll do them all. So everybody will get a chance to do enough to where they're proficient at every station. There won't be any pressure on you. if some of the stations you don't want to participate in, we totally get that. If you are not equipped and you do not want to cut throats, that's fine. My wife has been here with me for a long time, and she's never done it, and I don't pressure her to do it, and that's fine. I'm pretty sure she could if somebody wasn't around to do it, but no pressure. And then we'll do a little packaging, we'll talk cutting up chickens, we'll talk marketing, we'll talk regulation, and customer base and things like that. All right. Next thing is the Spring Homestead Guild, April 18th.
That's when we're slated for the.
Okay. Tentatively, because I think I have a consulting thing on there.
Right.
But the Spring Homestead Guild is coming, and it will be in April. Okay, we'll get back with you.
Towards the end of April.
Towards the end of April. We'll get back with you on that. And you can also check bakersgreenacres.com. Go to the Anyone Can Farm tab, and that's where it has all the information about consulting and online consulting, in-person consulting, Homesteaders Guild, which is a group. It's kind of a consulting group. But, it's actually my agenda. I come up with the subject matter, and I, direct the people in the direction that I want them to go if they're going to be successful. You don't have to do everything there, but you're going to get exposed to technologies and thought processes that if I wanted you to survive and I was sending you out and my survival depended on your success, this is what I would want you to know. That's 12 weeks long. Every session is different. The fall session was different than the winter session. The winter session, totally different from the spring session. And then the summer session is going to be completely different from that. So I would just tell you this, the spring session is going to be more of the processes. So as we're explaining pastured poultry, the day-long class would be great. It'd be good if you could come to both. If you can't and you want to come to Homesteaders Guild, we'll discuss that video format, and then we get together on Tuesday night with a Zoom call, and it's face-to-face. And it's 12 weeks long, so we get to know each other pretty good. Those calls are actually quite a bit of fun, and it's not just limited to my agenda. People have the ability to freely ask questions back and forth, and it's all pretty confidential because that part of it is between us and does not get posted. All right. So if you have dumb questions, you can ask them. All right. This is. Do you know what week this is? Is of our Wednesday Night Live question and answer?
Not a clue.
Okay. Well, I don't know. It's probably over 4,
6,
5,
maybe 6,
6?
7.
Well, we'll count them up. The purpose of this is to provide an open forum where you can ask questions. And Jill and I are here, and we've got a little bit of experience with this small farm thing, and we can have a free dialogue here. We're going to ask that you put your questions in capital letters. We do have questions that we hold over from the week. So let's say I post a video and there's a bunch of cool questions in there. I don't really have time to go in there and type in a bunch of answers, and then it's just usually a one answer to one question. But this way, we can put the answer out, and there's millions of people across the United States, actually in Canada too, that monitor this question and answer session all over the world, Antarctica even. And so the answers go out to a broader spectrum of people, which I think is important. Okay, we do a lot of work with manure here at Baker's Green Acres, so you can tell I'm good at that. So I am ready. I am willing to take the first question. My lovely assistant is here by my side. We're at the nerve center of Baker's Green Acres, the kitchen table. I can just tell you who we are, what we are. I'm just a retired GI, and we've been farming for about 15 years here, and then we did it for about 5 years before that at our last location, just for fun. Here we did it commercially for about 13, 14 years, and now we're going back to the original model of homesteading, which is where we provide all of our own proteins, carbohydrates, and then we really diversify in the processes that we just take a notion that we want to get good at, and so we have the time to do it. Commercial farming is a little different, where you're producing a whole bunch of one or two things, and then you convert all of that to dollars, and then you use those dollars to, pay for the things that you're not doing for yourself. So, we kind of focus on being able to do stuff ourselves. After you get going on this, it's really hard to have anybody do anything for you. Like I did a root canal on Jill last week. I just couldn't put the money out, for that expert to do a root canal when I got the tools here, Things like that. We try to, do as many processes as we can, okay? And usually it's around plants and animals, food, and then your farmstead is a fun place. Should be a fun place for you to live. Good environment for you to live in. Raising kids, good way to train kids to have meaningful work to do that somebody's depending on them. So that's where we're at right now. I'm glad to talk about that, but I see there's a couple questions, so let me quit yakking.
Dave Smith wondered, how long do you hang your pork?
Dave, it depends on which cut you're talking. Hanging pork refers to curing of pork. There, I can't think of any other species that we go to hanging. Maybe a little bit of beef, but not a lot. But with pork, the nature of pork is that you can cure that pork with salt, sugar, things like that. There's a lot of different recipes out there. And it just depends. The reason for hanging pork or curing pork would be for food preservation. So let's say you made up a whole bunch of sausage and you were going to dry cure them. And then, so you got them all hung up, but then in 2 days you needed some pork sausages for something you were making. Well, then you'd only hang them for a couple days because you'd use them. But the ones that you didn't use that hung for a year, would take on different characteristics. So charcuterie is what you're talking about. It's the art of curing pork. Has become a flavor enhancement tool in the culinary world, but it didn't start out that way. It started out as a food preservation method. So when you talk about something like, say, prosciutto, that is the rear leg of a pig that is put a little salt on it. We leave the hide on, and then we hang it in an environment that's 60% humidity and 60 degrees, and that's like plus or minus 10, and it's pretty essential that you do it in the fall time. You don't want to be hanging pork in the spring when it's likely to come in contact with flies and stuff like that. So you should always do it seasonally, because throughout the winter it'll get a nice hard crust on it, and the curing process will begin. It's not going to work if it's too cold, though. All right, so that's 60-60 plus or minus 20 is what's worked really well for us. It's not brain surgery, and I don't think there's any danger there. If a piece of meat goes bad, you will know it because this is right above this. So when it gets here, it doesn't smell right, then you don't eat it. That's the way it's worked for centuries. It's not method that is sanctioned in any way by these departments that like to oversee these processes, because they've been taught that meats need to be brought down below 40 degrees, but they don't cure below 40 degrees. So that's the rub there. And making hams and hanging pork is something that's been done for a lot longer than those organizations have been around. So it's not like you can hang hams and then take them to farmer's market because they'll freak out. But for your own family, and see, this is where in homesteading, when we're feeding our families and our friends and some of our associates, we have a ton more freedom than you do if you're going to engage in what I would call commercial farming, where you're overseen by, departments of whatever, departments of ag, departments of this, departments of that. All right. How's that? So it's what you need to do really is get a good book, and I have one that my camera's sitting on. It's called Charcuterie. It's Charcuterie, and it's written by a guy that I know by the name of Brian Polson. He's from right here in Michigan, and he knows everything there is to know about hanging pork.
I'll put a link to that in the comments after the show.
Very good. Thank you, lovely assistant. You can't really be a farmer without a pretty wife as your assistant. So,
All right.
another question, please.
This is from Ken.
Yes, Ken.
Why did you choose Michigan to farm in? Would you consider moving to another state that would be more friendly?
That's a loaded question. We came here so, for family reasons. And my idea of what farming was when I got out of the Air Force was completely different than what it is. All right, so I had no idea that there was farm-friendly states or farm-not-friendly states. I found that out when I got here. And I guess what I want to try to help you to understand is the playing field for commercial farming in Michigan is designed for a certain league, right? A certain league of players, right? And that would be industrial agriculture. The schools here, the universities, they put a lot of time and energy into industrial agriculture, pumping out the people that they need to pull this off. And so they're really geared towards industrial agriculture. So when a family farm comes on scene and wants to compete in the same marketplace, they don't like that because they like to send one inspector to a farm or a industrial farm that is hundreds of thousands of acres and thousands of employees, and so when they have to deal with one family farm, they don't really like that. And you're dealing with the same set of rules, and they don't work on the scale that we are if we want to make a profit. So that's why I say homesteading is removing what you're doing to a totally different field, a field where the umpire is you and your customers. It is not any type of regulation or inspection from anybody that's taken a paycheck from the state, because this is it's direct market. We feed our families, and as an American citizen, per the Fifth Amendment, if you want to pick up a dead squirrel off the road and bring it home and fry it up, you can. That's your right as an American citizen. So likewise, if you want to raise poodles and, well, let's stay away from that. Let's say you want to raise pigs, process them yourself, and then feed them to your family. That's your process, and it's protected under the Fifth Amendment. Or you want to feed it to your friends. What you cannot do is you cannot take that product and take it to a store, a retail store, or a restaurant, or even a farmer's market, because these establishments are all on the same playing field that I just talked about, and they are all regulated by the same entities, Department of Agriculture, and then you got health departments and all that other stuff. Health department has no authority on my property. They cannot come on my property. Department of Ag cannot come on my property without invitation or warrant. So my processes, they're mine. And it's like growing a garden. If I want to grow a garden, I bring that corn right in the house and eat it. I can do that. If I want to, grow rabbits and then I want to slaughter them myself, bring them in the house and feed them to my kids, I can do that. I don't need anybody to help. So the field that we're talking is the same field, you know, this homesteading field. It's the same state to state because all states fall under the federal constitution. And I really encourage my students to download a copy of the Bill of Rights to the U.S. Constitution. It's only a page, and it's 10, you know, short paragraphs, and read through there. And those are the restrictions that any of the government agencies have against you. So that restricts them. So if your operation falls within those, then you're covered. And those bad organizations, which have become bad organizations because they're really not pulling off what they're supposed to do. Okay, I'll not rant too much on that, but there you go. That's what I mean by homesteading and a totally different field of play. Okay, is there another
Alright.
question?
Yeah.
I can get going on that one.
Pig castration question. When you castrate your pigs, have you ever lost any to infection?
Okay, castration, another hot topic. We have friends that do not castrate their pigs, and they feel as though it's fine that way. As somebody that's raised pigs for a long time, and I own a butcher shop, so I've butchered a lot of pigs. If you do not castrate them, to me, they have a certain smell to them. And I don't care if they're young, old, been with, you know, a blonde sow or a redheaded sow. It doesn't really matter. I think they all stink. So if you're going to be farming and you're going to have me over for dinner, I would recommend that you castrate your baby pigs when they're young. You know, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, whatever. It's just how much you want to struggle with them. We have a pretty good video out there on pig castration, and it's like one of our most watched videos. So the question was, have I ever lost any to infection? Personally, I have not, and I can say that with a straight face. I'm totally telling you the truth. One time though, we had a really big pig, and he was a boar, and we did not need him anymore, and nobody wanted him as a boar. I don't like taking those animals to the sale barn because you get nothing for them, and then I'm not sure what happens to them after that. So we had made the decision that we were going to have the vet come, knock him out, and then castrate him. And that pig died. That was the only one. When we do him, but he was older. He was probably a couple of years old. He would have had testicles on him that were that big, no joke. But it was basically the same process. It's just that the vet did it differently than I do. He had been taught at vet school to pull that testicle out, where we don't. We pull it out a little way and we just clip it off with a blade, a razor blade, and then we put hydrogen peroxide on it. And he used something else, and that pig in 4 days was dead. Yeah, it was tragedy.
All right.
But I haven't.
Okay, this question. What to do if a week-old calf stopped eating the bottle and can barely stand? She also has a dry nose. She was fine the last 2 days, but just today she won't eat or stand up. There was a bad storm last night. She was under shelter, but still got a little wet. I can throw down if you need me
Yeah, Jill's the calf lady around here, so let her. She says she can throw down on this one. So throw down. So let's throw down, Mama.
to. Throw down, yeah. Yeah, so my thought with the dry nose and the storm is that probably she's picked up a touch of a cold or something related to that wind. And the storm and the stress of that, it kind of freaked her out probably. So she's gone off. At a week old, if she doesn't eat, she can get weak pretty quick. My thoughts are get her some aspirin, which you can give her just aspirin right out of your own cupboard. That'll help knock down. She's probably got a fever, especially with the dry nose. That's what makes me think that. You can check her eyes, see if they look a little sunken. So give her some aspirin.
How much?
Ooh,
How big is the calf?
well, a week old.
Is
Yeah.
it still with
I'm-
the mom?
No, it's on a bottle, but it quit eating. So give it aspirin, and I'm not sure exactly how many. I would think 3, maybe 4. And you can crush them up and put them right down her. Give her some honey, put them in some honey, and just put it at the back of her throat, and it'll go down. You don't want to let her go long. Like tomorrow, you might have to get a tube from the feed store, and that's a whole process. Or call the vet out to look at her if she's not eating at all. I have homeopathics that I use for that, but if you're not familiar, but if she's not eating and she's not wanting to stand up, you don't want to let it go. Give her the aspirin to knock the fever down. You can give her garlic oil, echinacea, make it a water tea, like if you have a cold tea or something in that vein in your house. But if she's not up and eating tomorrow, get the vet to look at her. If you need to tube her, find out how to do that. But you got to get liquids in her, or she'll dehydrate. So that's my thought on that. Don't let her go though, because she's a baby and they can dehydrate fast.
Yeah. Doesn't sound good.
Yep. Oh, she'll probably come out of it, but you've got to act fast. So
Yeah.
that's that one.
Calves, you gotta watch them close. As soon as you see something doesn't look right, like the sunken eyes, you gotta get after it right
Yeah.
that moment.
Right. And keep an eye out for diarrhea. She might need a little bit of, if
Yeah.
you have activated charcoal, you can put it right in her bottle, and that's a great way to deal with diarrhea and help get rid of any cold bug that's going on in there. So, all right. Another pig question. This is from the internet earlier this week. We have 2 litters of pigs. One litter's 4 weeks old, the other's 3. What is the best time to wean? How to wean? And can we turn them out on pasture together with the 2 sows later on?
First of all, you can turn them out on the pasture with the sows, and if it's not like a time issue, just let the sow wean them. She'll kick them off as soon as she's at about 8 weeks. She'll kick them off. She won't let them suck anymore, and that'll be the end of it. But if you want to take them off, you can take them off 6 to 8 weeks, and they'll do fine. They should be pretty good size by then. Can you keep them together? You sure can. We don't generally, we wean them when we're going to pick them off to either sell them or put them in an area that we're going to start feeding them, the feeder area. So my sow area is different than my feeder area, so, I will pull them off and then physically move them quite a ways so they can't see each other. So I hope that helps. How's that?
Good. Okay, chicken question.
Chicken question.
Yeah.
Ducks and Clucks should be coming on here to talk biochar.
Yeah, he asked a question, but I didn't see what it was, so if you'd re-enter it, Scott,
Yeah.
it didn't pop up. All right. This is a chicken starting. This person lives in a suburban area near a large city. They've got their coop ordered, fencing on the way. Can I start with chicks this late in the year, or should I just seek out older hens? Any advice or suggestions appreciated since this is my first go at raising chickens?
Yeah, you can start them anytime. You're talking laying chickens. They generally want to go 16 to 18 weeks before they're gonna start to lay. And you also ask about buying chickens that are what they would call ready to lay pullets. And sure, you can get them in the spring, especially because a lot of people see that as a moneymaker. They'll get chicks, just day old chicks, and raise them out 16 weeks, and then they'll sell them as ready to lay pullets. And I've seen them from between $7.50 and $15. I've seen them for more than that. I mean, at when especially closer to cities you get, people think, oh, I've got to have chickens, and they pay whatever they can to get a chicken. Um, so I wouldn't say you should do one and not the other. You can keep them together. Chickens are incredibly unaware of what day it is. Every time they blink their eyes, they think it's a different day. But like big chickens and little chickens, they're chickens, and sometimes the big ones will pick on the little ones, but usually it's the layers will pick on the meat chickens. But you can mix it up however you want, and I'm gonna encourage you to do whatever presents itself first and see what you think. If you get chicks, that's really fun because you get to see them as babies and then bring them on through until they start to lay and until they develop their personalities and you'll know them. So I would say whatever presents itself, do it. No such thing as a dumb mistake, right?
All right. Fun on the homestead wants to know, chicken or bunny poop? Is it helpful or harmful to the garden?
Chicken or bunny poop. Manure is what we call it in the farming business. You'll want to practice that nomenclature. Yeah, it's real good for the garden. What it has in it is bacteria, and the bacteria is from the gut of the animal. So if you can get it, the quicker you get it and you get it into a compost pile, you'll protect that bacteria. But I wouldn't see where I'd want to be growing my vegetables in fresh manure. I don't think it's going to hurt you, but I think that it's better if all of the manures go into a compost pile and then are turned regularly until they have, cured and got to a place where they're not quite so hot. Chicken manure can be really, really hot stuff. So, yeah, I just good rule of thumb is compost everything until it's composted down, and you'll know it's composted down when it's no longer making heat. Pile should get up to about 140 degrees. And that's, don't go out and buy a thermometer. Just when you start to fork it over, you'll see it steaming. And when it quits steaming, you'll know because you'll be able to pick it up and smell it, and it will smell like the forest floor. It will actually smell sweet, right? If it still smells like manure, you don't want to put that on your garden. No, no. So you should have a manure pile where you're you could be a year ahead on your manure. I have a compost pile right now that is stuff that's ready to spread this year that I made last year. And I made it earlier in the year last year, and I turned it and turned it and turned it. I probably have 20 yards ready to go, and I love composting. I think it's one of the most productive things you can do on the homestead. And there's a lot of reasons why, but I spread it everywhere, literally everywhere. It goes all over my lawns, and I know we're not supposed to talk lawns here as homesteaders. We're supposed to grow vegetables, not lawns, but I like my lawn. I like my lawnmower, and I like mowing the lawn, and you're not going to move me off that. Plus, I have a little machine that collects all the clippings, so I don't call it mowing, I call it harvesting. Composting, good way to go. Another question?
Yes. Do you have a large garden? Ken wants to know this again. He's a watching from a rest area in New York.
Okay.
How many square feet and what do you plan on growing?
Okay, this is what we plant, what we need for our family. Our garden here is for the produce that we need to sustain us, right? So all the green beans that come out of there go in cans. The cucumbers turn into pickles or get eaten fresh. All the lettuce gets eaten fresh. What else do we grow out there? A lot of tomatoes, a lot of
Corn.
squash, a lot of corn. And, you know, we hit it hard in the summertime. We're eating out of there a lot. Potatoes, arugula, anything that we kind of want to. Salad greens, lots of them. Strawberries, raspberries. And our garden is about 50 by 100. And that's almost enough for us. But then I have another garden over by my maintenance shop that used to just be a pig pen, but we have a lot less pigs on the farm now, so I've turned it into a garden, and I grew pumpkins on it last year that did outstanding. Yeah, once you get going, it's, you know, any place that you want to grow some stuff, you can. And so I do grow a lot of stuff where we have another field that we're not sure what we're going to use it for this year, but I may just plant corn in it, just sweet corn for us. I mean, we have corn literally every night of the week, and it gets to the point like we have to have corn or else we're going to get behind on it. But that's okay with me because I can eat it. I can eat it every day. I can eat it for lunch and dinner. I could probably eat it for breakfast. I love corn on the cob, especially fresh. But the nice thing about the homestead model is, okay, we've got this giant garden, but we also keep, you know, I have maybe 15 or 20 pigs here right now. And my numbers will probably stay there. Well, any overages I have on, let's say, corn on the cob, I don't feel obligated to convert that to dollars, but I can convert it to something else. I can convert it to pork. So instead of buying feed for my pigs, I can just feed them nice corn on the cob. See, so I always have it's sort of like a tier system. Everything kind of rolls down, and the nutrient is taken out of it, and always want it in a form where we can store it. And one of the best ways to store calories is on the hoof. I don't have to refrigerate it. I do have to feed it, but at this stage of the game where we are, we have fields dedicated just to livestock. So I will plant a 6-acre field this year of nothing but pumpkins. I have a shopping bag full of pumpkin seeds. And then when the pumpkins are this big and this big, I can just turn the pigs out there and they have all the pumpkins they want. And they can live on pumpkins. They're fine with that. They don't need any high-speed feed. And my kids can go out there with baseball bats and they can break up the pumpkins. And a lot of those seeds will actually come back the next year. I did pumpkins on that field last year, but I planted in sort of in phases. It's a field that has a small, like a seasonal pond in the middle of it. And I planted all up around the fence line. No, I didn't. I didn't plant it. I fed pumpkins there. And the seeds came back last year, and we ignored it. We did not have any animals on last year, and I noticed it just before winter, and there was 1,000 pumpkins out there. Wow, 500, but they were mushed. So this year I'm going to do it for real, and I will have enough pigs to put out there, and it'll sustain them for a while. You know, whenever there's nothing out there for them to eat, then we'll augment it with something else. Hope that
Right.
helps, Ken.
Moving, yeah, from garden to feeding pigs out of
Yeah,
pasture.
yeah. It's all connected.
Robert wondered, related to that, have you ever had your mangoes on a field with sorghum Sudan grass? Did they like it? He's thinking of planting a field with it and peas and other legumes. Thoughts?
Yeah, I planted a lot of sorghum Sudan grass. I did a video about it. I love the sound of Sudan grass. It sounds so African, you know, but it didn't come up for some reason. I, um, I think you need to plant it with a corn drill. I think maybe it was just I'm not sure why, but I actually did it twice, and it did not come up. But I did research it a little bit. I mean, it came up, but they were only like 3 and 4 feet high, and they were real sporadic. Sudan grass is sort of like a corn stalk in a way, but it doesn't ear out, and they'll get really big. And pigs do really well on it. They call it hogging down, and you can put your pigs out on these produce fields at any point. So if the Sudan grass is only this high, you know, this high, the pigs will eat it. But if it's 10 feet high, they'll eat that too. It's obviously better if the more produce you have, but you may be able to plant a field more than once in a growing season. I have a grow area. I've done many videos about this, and I'm really psyched about this. It's 300 long by 100 wide. It's fenced, it's irrigated, and it's dedicated to just pigs. And I've got it divided in 3 sections. So I grow a lot of things out there. I grow field peas. I grow daikon radishes, purple top turnips, pumpkins. We've even had corn out there that we've just had a bag of corn and we just planted it. And when it comes up, even if those stalks are not eared out, I can turn the pigs in on it and they'll eat it. They don't care. If it gets wormy, they eat it. They don't care. So it's a really nice system because per square foot, the forage that you can grow is incredible. If you just do a little calculation, you know, uproot a foot of your produce area and weigh everything that's in it that has caloric value, because the pigs will turn all of it into pork or lean and fat and bone and hide and all that stuff. But you know, again, like in the homestead model, we're not really concerned so much with rate of growth. It's not like I've got to have these pigs finished in, you know, seven months. We're not there. We're like, hey, if they take a year, so be it, because I have plenty of stuff already. I'm not meeting a schedule, you know, to make sure that my children are fed. I should have some in the freezer. I should have some hanging in the hanging room. I should have a supply, and I do. I mean, you can get way ahead of the game on this. You butcher a couple beef, that's a lot of beef. We butchered 2 pigs yesterday. That's a lot of pork laying on the table that has to be distributed. So was that the question?
Yep.
Did I cover
Yep.
it?
You did.
Everything really, and when you get into homesteading, everything really is connected. The finances, the growth rates, all of it. It is connected. It might seem like a stretch right now, but as you get into it, you say, wow, I really can connect the dots between, you know, gardening and livestock. I really can. I can connect the dots between, and I'm talking functionality. You mow the lawn, you keep the clippings, which would be a liability. We got to have someplace to put those clippings. Oh no, that's an asset. We can feed that to the chickens. We can feed that to the pigs. We can feed that to cows. If we have too much, we can feed it to the microbes in our compost pile. So nothing goes to waste. You know, it seems like, oh, you're mowing the lawn, you're wasting gasoline, and, you know, baby seals are dying in Antarctica. No. This is all working for the good of the inhabitants of this homestead. Wow, look at the count on that. Is that 19,000 people watching? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Okay.
Scott wondered about your thoughts on his first biochar try.
Ducks and clucks.
Yep. Yep.
All right, Scott made some biochar and posted the pictures online, and I was really impressed with the design of that. And I was also impressed with the attention to detail, the quality of the build, because it looked pretty good. Like you must be a machinist or something like that, or a anesthetologist or a cosmetologist or something, but must be some sort of pro, or maybe I don't know. But anyway, that looked really good, and you mentioned that your biochar came out and it had that ring to it when you drop it on the table. Let me explain to people watching what biochar is. It's carbon-based material that is roasted to the point where all the distillates are taken out of it. So what Scott used was wood. It looked like wood from the wood pile, for the house. And you have a vessel that you put it in. In his case, he used a 30-gallon barrel. And that barrel is, the wood that's in there is not exposed to any flame at all. But all around it, in a 55-gallon barrel, there is flame, and that heat is forced into the inner barrel. And this whole assembly is called a retort. And when the burn happens, the distillates on the inner barrel are released, and they come out in pretty nice flames. But the wood that's in there turns to just pure carbon, or very close to pure carbon, with no distillates in it, and it happens in an oxygen-deprived environment. And that's very important for a lot of different reasons. So, although the charcoal out of your campfire, yeah, it's helpful. I mean, we see this in nature when there's a forest fire and there's all this char that goes to the ground. That char provides protection for the microbial life that's in the soil. And it does a lot of other things too that I'm not really up on. There's guys that have written books that claim it does all kinds of things. What I know is I make it and I feed it to my chickens. And when I feed it to my chickens, they don't get coccidiosis. When I feed it to my pigs, it worms them, naturally worms them. And it keeps the worms in their system at a good balanced level. It doesn't take every worm out of them. You don't want that either, because then you have a vacuum in there that's going to get filled with something. And it's just got strange properties to it. If you have a bowl of biochar, try this, Scott. Leave it sitting on your table, and then have friends over that don't know anything about biochar. They will pick it up, they will smell it, they will even taste it. They'll hit it on the table. Wow, this is really neat. It's just something about us as a carbon-based unit, right? We're a carbon-based being that we're drawn to carbon somehow. I don't know why.
He says he even ate some.
Oh yeah, yeah. Scott said he ate some to see if it had any taste, and actually, it's a good idea for you to do that because it's not activated charcoal. Activated charcoal is charcoal that's hit with high pressure steam, and it atomizes it. But you don't have to do that. You can just crush it up and put it in capsules and swallow it, and it's good stuff for you. It cleans you out. There's a lot of, I'm not an MD or anything, so I don't want to speak definitively about this, but read the books, read the articles that are out there. When I found out about it, I said, this is something I need to do. And I built a retort like yours, Scott, a 3055. And then I went from there, I built the next one up and the next one up. And I'm on, I think Generation 3 is the one that I burn now. Generation 4 I started building, but I haven't finished it. But I don't think I'm going to, because my Generation 3 works good. And in the homesteading model, I need to make enough for me. And that's it. And maybe some of my friends. But at one point I thought I would be the biochar maker of the United States of America. But I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm just making it for me. Biochar goes in the compost pile. Biochar goes, like I said, to our pastured poultry chickens. It's right in their feed. I grind it right into their feed.
Oh yeah, he wondered, do you give it to your animals inoculated or dry, and how much? So
Well,
follow up on that.
I feed it to the pigs. I feed it to my cows. I mean, it's pretty cool because I do not inoculate the stuff that I'm giving them right now, because the way I see it is it's going to go in them, it's passing through their system, it's becoming inoculated with their biology, and then their biology is dumped out on the ground. And like, you're stacking the deck is what you're doing. So like, I'm doing pastured poultry, let's say we've got 75 birds in each chicken tractor, and they're pooping 20 times a day, and they're pooping out manure that's laden with biochar. The biology from the inside of that chicken is going to be protected when it hits the ground, and then it becomes part of the biosphere on on the ground, and that's a good thing because you want your whole homestead to be as active as possible with life. You don't want it dead. You want it alive. And biochar is one of the ways that you can preserve that. And if you want further information on that, I would research Terra Preta, Preta. Just do Google search on it. But it's really interesting. This is nothing new. It's kind of new to us, and we have to go to publications like Mother Earth News to find out about it. But it's been done throughout the world for a long, long time, and it's a way to create fertile soil. You know, we kind of think, oh, we don't need fertile soil. We'll just dump some fertilizer on that, and it'll be good to go. No, that's not how you want to do it. That's how you make sick people, by putting all the fertilizer on it. You want to create fertile soils, and this is one of the ways to do it. I'm not saying it's the magic bullet,
Will this likely be
but
a
it's a
topic?
magic bullet. Yeah,
Will this likely be a topic in your spring homesteaders?
Yeah, spring homesteaders, we're definitely going to do a block or two on biochar, on the build, and then the operation, and then the application of biochar. But it is tremendous stuff. I mean, the list goes on and on what you can use it for. But let's see, Scott, real proud of you for doing that. I mean, a lot of our homesteaders are what we would call doers. There will definitely be people that watch some of these things, but they'll really never get around to doing it. But I'm really impressed with the people that hear it and then go out and put it into practice. And with that, I would give you a little quip from Ralph Waldo Emerson. You can check this out if you want, but he said, if you do the thing, you will have the power. If you do not do the thing, you will not have the power. So you have the power now, Scott, because you've made biochar. So good on you. And pass it on. You know, show somebody else how to do it. Maybe even make up. Maybe you're a mechanical engineer, and you could make up a plan for a biochar retort, and then post it online so people can figure out how to do it. I mean, contribute. This is food system here. This is our lifeline to health and wealth. Health and wealth. There I go.
All right, pig question for you.
Yeah.
Actually, there's two of them here. Can you mix pigs? I have 4 and want to add, say, 4 more. Can you put them all in the same pen?
Yeah, you can. If one group of 4 is a whole lot smaller, I mean a lot smaller than the group that's bigger, you could have some problems. Pigs have been known to kill each other, you know. But they don't really know, hey, you're a large black. Hey, you're a Chester white. They don't know. They can't dig that. But usually in a couple days they sort out their differences and everything's fine. What you can do though, some people they can't get through that part of all the fighting out there, you know, and they'll be out there, can't we just get along? So what you can do is you could put up a fence in between them, and you could build it quick with like hog panels or something, and have, you know, the Crips on one side and the Bloods on the other, and then they'll they can work stuff out, they can get real in between, and then when you pull it, they're already through their differences. They've done a lot of, talking and stuff. So you could do it that way, but I don't, if I have to do it, I just let them fight it out, and they get over it.
Pretty quick, especially
Pretty
if you
quick,
throw
yeah.
some food in there.
Yeah, once there's food, and then you feed in different locations, so it can split the group up. Yeah.
All right, can you feed distiller's grain 100% of the pig's diet, or should I mix some starch into it? This is the same person, Aaron.
All right, just I don't feed distiller's grain just because I don't have a source of it. If I did, I would. If you're doing Mangalitsa pigs, I can speak from experience. They're really forgiving. You can feed them the same thing day in and day out for a long time, and they do fine with it. And then when you change up their diet, it doesn't seem to matter much. They just take it in stride. That's what I like about them. Other pigs that we've had, if they didn't get what they wanted, then they weren't going to eat. But these guys are, they're very forgiving. And they're very tough. So I don't have personal experience, but I'll tell you what another grower said to me. He said, distiller's grain is super high in protein, so you do need to balance it out with something. So I would say you could balance it out with, and this is just theory because I haven't done it, but I would say that you could balance it out with hay, or you could balance it out with even straw, right? They will eat straw. There's a lot of energy in straw, and it would balance out their diet. And just watch them, see how they look. Make sure those noses are shiny and the coats are shiny, and you'll know a healthy pig when you see it. Likewise, you should know an unhealthy pig when you see it. That's what I think about that. I haven't actually done it though. I think there was just another question I saw.
Well, I have another one before that, but
Okay.
Scott wanted to let you know that he did buy one of those metal huts that you have for his Mangalitsas, and they love it. So he just wanted to let you know.
Okay, a metal hut. You mean a porta hut? Must be
I
a
don't
porta
know.
hut.
Could be. He said metal. So anyway, and then green chicken, do you let it rest? We butchered some, and they were a bit chewy.
Yeah. They could be chewy because they're layers, and they're not the meat breed, but some of the best chicken that we eat around here are old stewing hens. What you're referring to as letting it rest, it's sort of like when you kill a beef and you let it hang for a while. What happens is let's say you killed that chicken and you let it rest for a week. What would happen is it would become falling apart on the ground. It would rest so much. So when you're letting it rest, the meat has a chance to do its natural thing, and that's to go back to the earth, to decompose. So there's enzymes and there's all kinds of things in there that when the animal dies, it decomposes. That's why we don't have, thousands, millions of dead deer laying along the side of the road, because you see them first, they're a deer that's dead, and then they become just nothing. They go back to the earth. If they don't get picked up, they just go away. And the same thing would happen to you. Same thing happens to trees, believe it or not. When we start, that's why I say all this is connected. When we start talking about mushrooms, we find out that when a tree dies, the mushroom fungi, they sense that, and then they say, hey, here's a good place to grow. So if you take a chicken, okay, this is how they do it over in Europe. They'll shoot a pheasant, they'll leave the feathers and the guts in it, and then they'll hang it up by its feet. And when they can pull the beak off, it's ready to eat. I don't know if you're going to want to go that far, but if you get the guts out of it and you get the feathers off and you let it start its decomposition process, it will soften it up. It will tenderize it. But another way you can go is you can freeze it, because all of those molecules that make up its flesh are filled with a fluid, and when they freeze, it shatters the cell wall, or a lot of them. And we know this because in charcuterie, we don't want our meat frozen first because all those perforated cell walls make for a
Preservable.
less preservable product. But if you're just going to eat the chicken fresh, I would say let it sit out at 60 degrees, no flies, for a time. I couldn't say how long. Could you?
Yeah. Well, I've found that as long as if the chicken cools off all the way before you cook it, even that helps. It makes it a little less chewy. You can let it sit in the fridge for a day.
Yeah.
But it's going to be chewier under any circumstance than, say, a chicken from the store,
Yeah. Yeah.
for sure. So it depends. I guess chewy is sort of subjective, and it depends on what
Yeah.
your point of comparison is.
Yeah. So you could substitute the word chewy for the word substantial. This is chewy. No, it's substantial. But you know, when you eat a chicken that you grew, taste it. Just get the flavor. See how different it is. Pastured poultry. Why do you want to do that? Why don't you just buy that 29-cent stuff from the store? Well, the reason is the stuff from the store tastes kind of like Mountain Dew in a way, and it's just corn. But the stuff that I grow, they're out exercising. They're on green grass and clover, and then I know the feed that I'm giving them doesn't have anything in it that's shouldn't be there. You know, I'm not feeding them any steroids or anything like that. I don't want any of that in the food that I give my kids. So the flavor on it is outstanding. I had a chicken. I usually don't eat before I do this because sometimes I can get drowsy after I eat, and I want to be sharp as a tack when I'm doing this for all 10,000 people that are listening. But tonight, because I had a little nap, I ate a chicken wing, and I can't wait to eat the other one after I'm done. It was so good. And there are chickens. Any more questions?
New England Endler
All
wanted
right,
to
New
know,
England.
what's the one book about farming homesteading you'd recommend?
Ooh, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. Okay, no, I got it. Do we have it here?
The green one?
Back to Basics. It's called this. I've had this particular book for 20 years, and it's not.
Or at least that title.
Yeah.
Not that particular book,
No,
because
not
we've worn them
because
out.
we've worn them out. And I'll just warn you, it's not like a conclusive how to do everything that there is. It hits the mountaintops. It's how to learn and enjoy traditional American skills. It hits the mountaintops. It's really interesting reading. Then it's got everything in there from tinsmithing to irrigation, cultivation, cropping, soils, housing. It's an excellent book. You can get that one at Tractor Supply, and Jill usually puts a link in the description. The other one is an attitude book, and there's a farmer down in Swoop, Virginia. His name is Joel Salatin. I've met him. I've actually had dinner with him, and he writes books, really good books on his experience in farming. And the one that, if you saw my copy of it, it looks like an old, Bible that somebody's had for 1,000,000 years. It's just worn out, and it's called "You Can Farm." And our program is called "Anyone Can Farm," but it really isn't a knockoff on "You Can Farm." Ours is a knockoff on the movie Ratatouille, and it was kind of a joke where the rat is on the top of the guy's head and he's the chef, and he does a fantastic job. And we kind of came up with this because we knew that there was a need to instruct people on how to farm. And our friends at the Department of Agriculture, they like to say that, well, it's touchy business, and not everybody, only the professionals can farm. That's the way they like to play it off. Like, you're not quite astute enough to keep pigs safely outside. And so we counter that. We say, no, anybody can do this. And you don't need a PhD. You need to be a PhD, but you don't need a PhD. And let me explain that.
And it's good to invest in your education, so that's why
And your education would be a post-hole digger.
we'll teach you how to
PhD.
keep those pigs in the fencing class and the Homesteaders Guild.
Yeah, and that's what this is about. A book like this is an investment in your process. You tune into something like this where somebody's telling you their experience with farming. It's an investment in your process. Invest in yourself. When you go and you get a PhD in something, you're preparing yourself to invest in someone else's company, right? And you'll move up the chain there. This is different. This is a different playing field. Invest in yourself. So your PhD will be your post-hole digger. And it will be in your tool area, and it's yours, and it's an investment in your farmstead.
So if they come to the fencing class, they can get a
PhD.
PhD. We'll even
Yeah.
give you a piece of paper.
We'll give you a piece of paper that says you're a PhD. Certified.
Certified PhD.
Certified PhD. I certify them, and Joe seconds the certification process. Yeah, I kind of goof on that, all right? And the reason I do, okay, that fencing class is going to be May 4th, is because a lot of times terms are thrown out there on this field that's been constructed that you have to jump through a bunch of foolish hoops. And a term like certified, you need to be licensed. It's almost like, no, I don't. Like a license to drive, that doesn't teach me how to drive. That's just an indication that I've paid my money to the people that are going to take money away from me if I don't have it. It doesn't, you don't learn, the whole certification process and all that, it's kind of dumb, really. Pick up these skills, learn them, and if you really want, I'll certify you. I'll do it by mail if you want. You don't need to be certified in any of this. That's why I'm joking about this certifying and being an expert and stuff like that. Let's share information here that's useful and helpful to all of us. Wow, 20,000 people listening. 15,000 people have given the thumbs up. Please give us a thumbs up and share this with your friends and colleagues. We'd like to continue to do this. Right now, it's kind of a winter thing because we have the time. Don't know if it will. The Wednesday night will continue. We'll see. See where it goes. Okay. Do we have any more questions?
I have one more question for you. This is Greenhorn Homesteaders. I think that's Joe Brown. What's a fair price to sell per pound for for pork and beef, not including the butcher? Talking hanging weights.
Hanging weight. Fair to who? See, how do I answer that question? If you raise a beef on grass and it's 2 years old, and then you try to compete.
Paul from Kansas.
Paul from Kansas. Okay. And then you try to compete with the stuff that's coming out of feedlots in Iowa. You really can't compete because they feed stuff that is not grass. And beef are designed to eat grass. They're not really designed to eat corn. They're really not designed to eat grain. They're designed to eat grass. They're ruminants. But it will puff them up and it will grow them fast. But they can produce them about half the time that you can produce them on grass. Do I want to eat their beef? The answer is no. Grass beef, grass-fed beef off my place, the answer is yes, as much as I can. And I know that it's good for me and my kids. But what do you want to sell it for?
Know your numbers and
Yeah, I
give a
don't know.
cushion for your time.
Yeah.
Allow for your time. Pay yourself.
And generally, I would say twice what it is at the store. That was a good place to start. And if people won't pay it, then don't sell it to them. You know, if you hear, well, I can get it at Shopko over there for 15, $15 a bird or something, or whatever then I would say, then go to Shopko. The way we do this, and what you ought to think about, Paul, is if you're raising beef, set your price and then pre-sell those animals. At least get a $500 deposit per half on those animals. And if somebody says, yeah, I'd like to have a half a beef, okay, put your money where your mouth is. I need a $500 deposit. Oh, well, can't I pay you all at once? No, because then what will happen is when the beef is ready, hey, your half a beef is ready, it's butchered and everything. You don't have any money this month. Happens all the time. I didn't know it would be that much. I thought getting it from you it would be cheaper because we're buds. No, it doesn't work that way. And don't let it work that way. You've got to profit in this thing. You've got to make a profit. But with the homesteading model, if my beef comes to my table and I see my kids eat it and grow on it, then that's my profit. I'm not going to the store and buying someone else's garbage beef to feed to my children, or garbage pork or garbage chicken. If you find out what they feed them, you do not want to feed that stuff to your kids, especially your female kids. So I didn't give you a number.
It varies too much from place to place what people are willing to pay and what your inputs are.
Yeah.
Track, if you need a starting place, check at your local farmers market, because then you'll get an idea of what people are getting for what you've got. And then through the year, carefully track all your expenses. And the rule of thumb is to allow 40% for overhead. So know what you've got into it, and then give yourself a 40% cushion to cover your taxes and your building upgrades and your time. Pay yourself for your time. We see so many people that don't, when we see their prices, we think they're paying for their feed. They're not paying to replace their animals.
Yeah.
They're not paying themselves. They're feeding people for nothing. And then it's not a fair exchange, and you won't want to keep doing it. So keep it fair to you. I call it local fair trade. It'll be more than the store, but it's fair to you, and it's fair to the animals because you can take care of them, and it gives people good food. So,
Yeah. A lot of things happen here when you start talking converting what you're producing to dollars. A lot of things happen there. We see now at stores where they'll have an organic section and everything is 30 to 50% more. And the thing about that is most of the regulations that they have to certify it as organic is written by, their company lawyers. So a company is, let's say a retail chain, they're in business for one purpose and one purpose only. And it ain't to provide you with wholesome fare. It really isn't. They may say that. That's marketing. And that falls into the manure category. They're in business to make money for their shareholders. So if they have an organic section, they write the book, or their cohorts write the book on what organic standards are. And if you look into that, you're going to be very surprised. It used to be, when this started, if you had a ponytail and a pair of Birkenstocks, you could be an organic farmer. Now, you've got to go to the USDA or one of their affiliates to be certified as organic. And there's a lot of money that it changes hands. And you could get that certification and the next day turn around and do everything that the conventional people are doing. So I don't even like organic anymore. I would prefer homesteading, because if you're working out in your garden and you have a weed problem, let's say, you will get to the bottom of that weed problem. And it isn't, the answer to that isn't, oh, let me go get some poison that I can spray on this. Kids, you want a cucumber? No, that's not the answer. But you have to find out what the answer is. And it's not, gee, I have a weed problem. I must be lacking poison in this soil, you know? That's not the answer. That's a dumb answer. And it's an answer that could get you sick. A lot of these, I mean, we're hearing it all the time right now, and I think pretty shortly here we will see certain companies go out of business because they're being sued for a product that's sprayed directly on our food products that is giving people a real hard time. And I mean, people are getting sick and dying over this. And they've said for years that, oh, this stuff's safe. Roundup is what I'm talking about here. It's glyphosate, and it's sprayed on everything now. They're even spraying it on wheat, so it will kill it in the field, and it will dry in the field so they can save money on the drying costs of that wheat. So how dumb is that? And then their cohorts in the government are saying, well, if you guys say it's safe, I guess it's safe, so go ahead. And then it gets signed off at very high levels, and people are dying. And you know, how many people do you know that are gluten intolerant? No, they're not gluten intolerant. They're glyphosate intolerant. That's what they're intolerant of. So any of those products that you know are sprayed with glyphosate, don't eat them if you don't want the problems that come with them. And how do you know what they are? Oh, they're not going to put it on the package. This has been doused down with poison. They're not going to do that. So it's on you to know what's safe and what isn't safe. So this is not, this homesteading thing is not exactly a cakewalk. You know, it's going to take some time and some conversation like this and getting smart. I would like there to be a whole bunch of forums like this where people can talk and they can share ideas and stuff. And here we are in the homesteading business. Ducks and clucks, I am not competing with you, right? So I have every reason to pass on everything I know to you, and it's for the good of your family, and I think your family is human, and my family's human, so we might as well, right? But in the commercial business, I'm not going to tell my neighbor what I'm doing over here to make money. I'm not going to do that, because then he'll make money, and I want him to starve, and us to be driving Cadillacs. That's the commercial business. It's all wrong. That's why the prices of food at the store are so low right now that farmers are saying, well, heck with this. I might as well go work at the factory because they can't, but the competition is driven the prices down so low that instead of doing quality herdsman or quality stewardship of the land and quality stewardship of the animals or husbandry of the animals, they do whatever it takes, and the animals just become just a widget. Where I mean, this is a being. This is an animal needs to be shown respect, especially if you're going to kill it and eat it. So that's my thoughts on that. I mean, I can go really deep into that, and it's not hard to do. Once you get a feel for this whole homesteading thing and survival at this stage of the game, 2019, it's apparent what's happening, and it's not good. So to break out of that, you have to do for yourself, and that's why I think homesteading is an amazing opportunity for the average family to do. You don't need a big farm. You could do it on a city lot, but then you have to know how to proceed with that. Was something that I was just thinking of. Well, anyway, the Matrix, I guess. Breaking out of the Matrix. And I want to continue to have this conversation. I'm not skittish about this. We're not competing with any of these companies that we need to bring to light what they're doing to our public. But as far as you and your family, like Ducks and Clucks, you're responsible for them. Nobody else is. I always got a kick out of when we were dealing with commercial farming and we had inspectors from the state come here. They were wanting $250 off us a year for a piece of paper, right? But that didn't mean that if we accidentally got somebody sick, that they were gonna step in and fend off the spears. Oh no, they would say, well, we did our job. We made sure that they were safe one day. So the whole thing is a scam. It's a total scam. Are there any more questions before I get too fired up?
Nope.
Okay.
Good. It's 8:15.
Okay, 8:15. We went a little long tonight. I thank everybody for staying with us, and please help us out a little bit and spread this around. This goes up on the Baker's Green Acres YouTube, so if you can share it with people that you know that would be interested in this information, and that'd be great. I don't know what opportunities are out there in front of us as far as sharing information, but things are definitely changing in our world now. And I know that there's, I talked with some ladies today, 4 of them, that were quite in tune with the environment around them, and they were discouraged. And I said, please don't be discouraged. Please don't, because things to make things a lot better just in our little circle. So get out there and do that. Plant a tree this spring and more. All right, this is Mark coming to you from Baker's Green Acres, and I'm signing off. I will talk to you again maybe on Facebook Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. We go live for a similar discussion, and we'll see where that goes. All right. Good night now.